Hey, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Glad to be back. It is Tuesday, November 18th. This is an early edition of the podcast. Usually I'm doing things in the evening or whatever, but have a couple of days off. So why not drop a couple episodes here? And I got a great, exciting guest. Looking forward to chatting with her, and also we'll bring her on in a minute. But before we get started, hit my music. Let's get it. All right. Once again, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Glad to be back with a new episode. Great guest waiting in the wings. So I'm not going to keep her much longer. But before I bring her on, you can follow the show on all the podcast platforms, whether it's Spotify, Apple. We're also on YouTube, BS3 Network, BS3TVLive.com, BS3 Network, Roku channel, iHeartRadio. So wherever you consume podcasts, we are there. You can find it, The Real Deal with Courtney Harden, on also all the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, and I missed one, TikTok. I am on TikTok too. Don't usually use those platforms much, but I do use them. So so I'm active mostly on Instagram and Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. But you can find me on all those platforms. Well, let me get my guest. I mean, this incredible woman has such a big time resume as well. She's an investor, an advisor within the NIL, influencer, sponsorship, data management, sports tech. She's also current center at Rutgers University as well. She does a little bit of everything. So let me welcome to the show, Rachel Maeng. How you doing, Rachel? Welcome to the show. Really appreciate it.
I'm good. Thank you for having me. It was I like the sound that you did for the intro.
But yes, I always try to switch it up a little bit. And
Yeah,
when you have you have an incredible resume, and I really appreciate
thank you.
your time. And we're gonna get into all of that. And again, thank you for doing this, and thank you for networking and connecting as
Yeah,
well. We connected through Instagram, and like I said, I had Sam Green on a couple weeks ago, and that's how
yep.
we kind of
Love
connected.
Sam.
So I really appreciate the time, really do.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. Love
Yeah,
Sam.
yes. Yeah. Shout out to Sam Green as well, doing her thing on, and with NIL and everything too. And you said you guys just did something a couple weeks ago
Mhm.
as well. So that's how we got connected
Yeah,
in a way too. So, but yeah, just the algorithm of social media, and you're really heavy into that with NIL and helping and advising and investing. So we're gonna get into all of that as well. So, all right, well, let's start from the beginning. Start right from the top. Always, it's my first time guest. Who is Rachel Maeng, and how'd you get started into the love of sports and educating and all that? So I know it's a loaded question, but who is Rachel Maeng? That's where we'll start.
yeah. I think to start, and I think to explain that question really like goes back into how I grew up, all those things. I'm Korean Filipina, originally from South Korea. Got adopted to, of all places, upstate New York, Syracuse. So very different climate and culture, all the above.
Yep.
I grew up in a 89% white community. My parents are also white. So I think, just right from the start, I always found myself as a little bit different. Always found myself as someone who's outspoken, someone who's always, being representative, being a leader. And I always say one of the biggest things about me is the audacity. And just yeah,
I
the
like
audacity. And just the willingness to, like, for lack of better terms, like, get shit done. And I
that.
really think that came from like my upbringing in Syracuse. Like I said, 89% white community. And I really attribute a lot of like my audacity and confidence and my ability to do things nowadays to growing up there. I wasn't treated like I was that different. And I think that that was a big awakening to realize as I got older, as I got to Rutgers, which was diverse, as I moved to New York City, which again is diverse.
Yeah.
And just understanding like the shelter that I had up there, the ability to like grow my confidence, like I always say, to the audacity of like a 30-something-year-old white man. So
I love that. Well, a couple of things. I'm originally from upstate New York. I know all
mm,
about Syracuse. I'm from born and raised in Elmira, New York, which is
okay. Yep.
2 hours away from Syracuse.
Yeah, you know about
So,
the snow.
yes, I know all about that. Yes, and so yes, I'm 46 now. So my first 34 years it was in Elmira. So
Yeah.
and my family's still there. Me and my wife still visits. We go every year for Christmas and all that. So I know all about the upstate New York upbringing and all
Yeah.
that. So yeah, so we definitely have that in common. So maybe that's where part of the connection comes from
Right.
with that. Yes, yes. And also my mother-in-law, and she's big, and she's adopted and
Mm.
adopted kids and have raised foster
Oh,
kids
wow.
and things like that. So I know that whole story too, and everything too. So yeah, I can totally resonate uh,
Yeah.
that with that as well. But speaking of your upbringing and things like that, how has that it said you know you get things done. You just you say you like to get
Mhm.
things. How has that helped you in your career today?
I honestly think that's, the thing that's really driven my career.
Mm.
Everything I've done has been really self-made. I didn't belong in a lot of places and didn't
Yeah.
have the, let's call it credentials,
Oh,
to
yep.
be in a lot of places, to be able to do a lot of the things that I've done. And I think that my ability to do it was, again, two parts: the audacity, the confidence to go in and say, yeah, I can do this. And
Mm.
then the other part, I think, is just the get shit done attitude. Go in and maybe I understand 75% of what's going on because of conversations I've had, because of past experiences, but everything I've done, I always feel is, has the ability to be attributed in whatever situation I'm in. So the get shit done attitude of, coming in and just making myself understand like what is going on, what needs to get done, and making it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love what you said. The audacity. How you say how
Yeah.
audacity? How did I the audacity to get things done
Hmm.
and the right. And you said your upbringing led you to where you are today, which I feel. And then again, another thing too is like said, stand out too. When we look different and and things like that, you stand out and you make it.
Yep.
You say, hey, even though I stand out, I belong. And
I
when
like
I
that.
belong, wherever you are, you belong, and you show okay, no matter what your race, your gender, and all that, if I belong here, I'm going to be here, and I'm going to show my who I am and what I do. And he said the audacity of I'm going to get it done regardless.
Yep.
You know, for sure, for sure. Oh, I love that. I love how that intro of your of how you said who you are.
Yeah,
Really, I
just
really appreciate it.
again, audacity.
Audacity, yes, absolutely. That's gonna be the word, audacity,
Yeah.
for sure, and everything too. So you work through, with NIL,
Mhm.
and it's always questions about NIL and things like that. So but I wanted to have you on, always about educating, and you're the perfect example for this too. So talk about the landscape of NIL and what it entails for people that don't know what it entails, and because people might get it confused. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, is it money? The kids making too much money, blah blah blah, all these things. So, from your perspective as an investor and a strategist and a consultant in NIL, talk about what NIL is and the benefits of that, and from your landscape.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, NIL, I think the main misconception is that it's new. It's not.
Mhm.
NIL has been around, ever since the idea of celebrities has been around. Celebrities are profiting off of their name, image, likeness, which is really what NIL stands for.
Yep.
Nowadays, we say NIL and we're referring to the 2021 NCAA rule that college athletes can now profit off their NIL. So like I said, celebrities have been doing this the whole time. Like, what do you think Kim Kardashian, LeBron James, like when they're doing promos and such? They're not doing promos and they're not doing commercials because people are necessarily interested in only the product or exactly what they're talking about. It's who they are, the platform that they have. So really, NIL is sharing the platform that these athletes have because they're college athletes. a certain percentage of athletes around the country from high school go to college sports. That smaller percentage ends up pro. And so, having that platform, these athletes, these college athletes can now do endorsements just like professional athletes can. They can do commercials, they can do social media brand deals, which is a lot of what this NIL marketplace is. They can now do them. So I think the biggest misconception, again, is just that this is something crazy. This is something new. It's not. Celebrities have been doing it this whole time. And then, even more specifically, from where my background is, influencers have been doing it this whole time. Influencers are literally profiting off their name, image, and likeness across social media. So I think, when I look at NIL, when I talk to people about it, I take it all the way back to the celebrity world and then the influencer world of, this is not new. We know the rules. We know the goods, the bads, what works, what doesn't. And so I think whenever I explain it, whenever I work with schools, organizations, I always bring it back to something that's tangible.
Yeah, absolutely. And then all of a sudden it also goes back to, students, student athletes, I should say, making money. And that's always, that's always been an argument for so many years. And now that, and then it says not just athletes, student athletes, college athletes, and things like that. You said influencers and celebrities, and they're able to get profits off, from companies, or just from their social media, which is a big part of what's making NIL grow, is the growth of social media.
Exactly.
And as you said, as you're a consultant and a strategist of NIL, with NIL, you're able to talk about that a little bit, to talk about that with the advertisements and things like that, how much that's grown with social media, with NIL. Like I said, that misconception, but they're able to make money from this. But it goes back to how much growth social media has become, and how much growth has advertising has come, and able to be out there posting and things like that, and sharing video, things like that. I think it's a huge advantage.
Oh yeah, 100%. Let's call it like modern day influencer marketing. Really started, I want to say, around like 2010. We're into vlogging, we're into mommy vlogs, things like that.
Yeah.
And then, fast forward, let's call it 2021, 2020-ish, right when COVID hit. That's really when I would say all social media influencers kind of had this like resurgence and reestablishment of what influencer marketing really is. I think partially that is fueled by COVID, fueled by people being forced to stay home, people then being on their phones, discovering like TikTok. And then I was actually part of TikTok, Learn on TikTok, which was this push to migrate the platform into what it is now as far as content and creators goes. Really that like monetization of creators, the education, the DIY, more of those sorts of things rather than just like dancing and only entertainment. So I would say that's really like the resurgence of social media. And then that came like, athletes, influencers, celebrities, even just people who maybe have a college degree in finances or in STEM, things like that, that they were really able to go on then and charge money for the platform that they have, for the amount of views that they have. So going back to, again, influencer marketing, social media marketing, every view has a dollar amount tied to it because you're generating awareness for something. So if you think of businesses, they pay a certain amount of dollars per view at commercials on TV, on streaming platforms, social media, etc., to get to their target customer. So social media influencers, athletes, celebrities, they have this ability to leverage the audience they have if it's the ideal customer for these brands. That's really where like the payment comes in. And then using their NIL for endorsing different products or for talking about, their own platform.
Yeah, right. And brand deals, and that as well has grown. And again, a lot of these, as you said, the younger athletes and influencers and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
they have that platforms now. There's so many different platforms to grow their, I guess you just want to say, to grow their brand. And I think it's fascinating, and I enjoy it. And I was always on the side of, student athletes making money,
Right.
and everything too. I know, yes. Has it gotten? Well, I'll ask you this: do you feel like the NIL has gotten out of hand in a way because of transfer portals and things like that? Has it gotten out of hand, or should there be some type of, maybe some a little bit more stipulations, things like? But it's like with anything else, some things just get out of hand every once in a while. But what do you feel like with NIL? Has it gotten out of hand in your perspective, or should there be a little bit more leverage or things like
Yeah, I definitely think that there needs to be a collective bargaining agreement.
collect
Um,
bargaining?
yep,
Yes.
we're going that way.
Yeah.
Um, I definitely think that there should also be a organization that represents all the student
Mm,
athletes. You know,
yes.
there is one for professional
Absolutely.
athletes. There is a union for people who work in the industry, like gaffers, people who do the lighting, the sound, etc. And so people that are just part of this entertainment industry, sports or media, etc. I definitely think that there needs to be a group that does the bargaining for them, that helps them have that seat at the table, that helps fight for the things that they need. Because otherwise, you're going up against a huge company, a monopoly like Netflix, Amazon,
Yeah.
marketing companies, brands like Kellogg's, etc. And if you don't have the representation, then you really don't understand, what needs to be done and what you should be asking for. I think that's a big part of it. Um, and I definitely think that, student athletes, it was always going to come that they were going to get paid, because if you have a company, like Big Ten, if you have a group like the Final Four, those sorts of things, those groups, those platforms, they generate so much money off of streaming, off of
Yeah.
merchandise, those sorts of things. And the people who are actually doing those things, the actors or the athletes, like they need to get profit as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So somehow, some way, it was going to happen,
Yeah.
and the profits was going to come because, for one, there's a lot of money involved, and two, you said coaches and things like that, they're getting paid. The university's making a lot of money. The students want to make some money too, and I agree. I 100% agree with that point of having a collective bargaining, having someone that's um, able to guide and lead
Right.
a way of NIL. Hey, maybe you could be the commissioner of the of that.
I don't know about that.
Hey, you never know. You never know. They call you up and say, "Hey, Rachel, we would love for you to kind of guide this. We had this leadership role for you that you want to, what changes would you like to make?" And you can say, make it a collective bargaining. Hey, that you'll be right in the leadership.
Ooh, I mean, back to the collective part, I think there's so many good people in the space,
Yeah, yes,
that I've met over time,
yeah,
that if you're going to go ahead and make something like that, like you've got to involve all these different parties and organizations, people who have done the research and things. Um, but I'm so excited in this space to see like those good people and those good
yeah.
companies really fighting for the athletes and advocating, posting on social media where they actually reach the constituency group that they're trying to represent. So I'm all for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Hey, I'm putting it out there. So that's now if I see you and you're on there, be like, hey, I knew it. I knew it. She's like involved, and now she's an advisor for this and
Yeah,
everything
you put it
too.
into words.
You put it in the words, right? And everything too. So you like you say you work with quite a bit different people and athletes and things like that. What do you look for when you are helping, athletes or influencers when they're looking for a brand or they're looking for something to how would you guide them into and really make sure that the companies that they're looking for it's a match.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a two-part question, right? Like there's two sides of it. There's the
Mhm.
influencer, the athlete, and then there's the brand. I think
Yeah.
when it comes to the brand first, I want to start there. When it comes to the brand, they're looking for their target audience. So they're looking for the ideal customer, the gender, the age, the location, the buyer affinity, all of those things. They look for a influencer, an athlete, a celebrity that has that customer as their audience already. That's the biggest part. I think people misconceive that a certain talent is great for a brand, but when you look on their social media analytics, and all brands, all people like me, we can check the analytics, the audience demographics. We can see if the individual actually has that as a follower group. So
Yeah.
first and foremost, we're looking to see if those match, because why would you spend money in a place where your customers aren't? And then
Mhm.
when it comes to the influencer, it's having that understanding that that's how the brand is going to select you or not select you. I think that helps frame the conversation and even the search of like what brands may be a good fit for you. You might absolutely love Lululemon. Like, let's just say, like, as a guy, you're like, hey, I have a girlfriend and I think that she could be in the video with me. But your audience on social media, the platform you're using, doesn't actually have the ideal customers. So Lululemon wouldn't work with you. And when it comes to the athlete, I think this idea of authenticity, of doing things that are true to yourself and true to your brand, and are even maybe products that you use on the day-to-day basis. I think that's so incredibly important now. I think at the start of COVID, again, like that time of resurgence of influencer marketing and really setting the stage for what it was going to look like in the future, I think there was a lot of inauthenticity going on with a lot of creators and athletes, using products that didn't make sense, talking
Yeah.
about crypto when they have no financial literacy, nothing like that. I think that was such a big part of the mistrust that's developed over influencers and celebrities endorsements, that now people are so much more careful about it. So when you're an influencer and athlete and you're going to select the brands that you're working with, just making sure that it at least makes sense. Like if
Yeah.
you're a vegan, don't work with the National Pork Association.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny because as you said, if you would think that would be common
Yeah,
sense
you would
anyway.
think that that would be standard, but,
Then standard. Yeah.
sometimes yeah, sometimes you think there's an alignment when no one else is gonna think it's there, or
Yeah.
sometimes it is just honestly about money.
Right. And if they said if you're a vegan, you work for say a pork organization or you're
Right,
doing something for Burger King or something like that,
right,
you're thinking that's not gonna matter. But then some will go by their principles and go by their
right.
standards, or you said, or they just want that money, and it could work. But if if you're a vegan, you work for a pork company, might not work, and it just might not be. It's definitely not a fit for sure. Not sure, right? But no, it makes sense. But it makes sense that you want to make sure that it aligns with what you stand for and things like that. But he said others. You said they see that money and the dollar signs. They want to say, "Well, I can still do it." You're like, okay, let's see how not the long term thing. Because at the end of the day, it looks like you're trying to make it a long term investment for the company, for the brand and the company, and the person that's being hired for that as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, let's. I want to talk a little bit more about what you're currently doing. You talk what's your day to day like? I'm sure it's totally different. As you said, investor, advisor, fractional COO, and CMO. And I got to ask you about being a Rutgers University senator. We'll come back to that. But what's your day to day like? As you said, as an investor and advisor
Yeah.
and the fractional COO and CMO.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the senator part. I was talking to someone recently, at Nike, and I was like, "Oh, I'm a senator," and they're like, "Of the government?"
Yeah.
US government, the Rutgers University
Yeah,
government.
yeah. You're like,
So super
yeah.
funny title. Yeah.
Yeah.
As a so I I had my agency, Gen Agency. It was called Loot Agency back when we were on Netflix.
Mm.
And I had that for 4 years. That was my baby. That was like where I got so much of my experience
Yeah.
and so much of my connections and all of that. Had it for the last 4 years. I recently exited in June, so that was exciting. And in that time that I left, I realized, what I had done, wasn't necessarily common, and being able to scale it and even just have all of our employees work remotely, the numbers of influencers we work with, the 180 different brands we worked with,
Yeah.
the ability to scale was based off of the infrastructure that I had built and the technology that we utilized, how we utilized it, how we worked with our people, and things like that. And so I started to realize, a little bit more about like fractional leadership, a lot of startups in this space. And I think we've seen this huge surge of startups since probably like 2022,
Mm.
and really, really started to come about in like 2024, I would say, especially with NIL. There's so many like NIL based startups or startups around the creator economy, things like that. I realized that I had learned so much from that space, of, what is a data room? What do you need to get investments? How do you speak
Mm.
to investors? And then on the flip side, like the experience that I had, I wanted to share it with all these companies that I was either helping out or had asked me to be on their advisory boards. That I started going into this like fractional leadership. Essentially, it's just building company digital infrastructure and like people operations, training people, setting companies up for success, whether it's just in like the day to day leadership leadership and operations, or even a little bit more long-term of exits or setting up for investor relations to get investments for a pre-seed round, whatever it might be. So that's a lot of what I do, is working with those startups, and also even working with leaders in established companies, whether it's a reorganization or whether it's launching a new or a go-to-market strategy for a new product or new services, things like that. And then, advising the companies that I sit on the boards for. And lastly, just different things like events, Super Bowl, All-Star,
Mhm.
Summer League, tennis events, LA 28 World Cup, all those things are coming up. And I'm excited to have my hands in a lot of different things and a lot of different companies for the city of Los Angeles. So my day to day, I honestly could not define it. A lot of it honestly is from this exact seat for like
Yeah.
12 hours at my computer. And then just last week, I had 4 or 5-ish events, between like documentary screenings at the NAACP, movie screening areas, to being at, like I said, like Nike, to being at Art Gallery in Beverly Hills with Meta World
Mm.
Peace. So it's like I can never really tell you what my week is going to look like. It's always going to be exciting. And I always think that's funny because I personally am a very boring person. Like, I am such a homebody. I like to just sit at my desk and work, hang out with my cat, my partner, and otherwise my life seems like very exciting, but realistically, I'm a very, very boring person.
I mean, like you said, you might think that, but like I said,
Yeah, the
knowing you
perception
personally,
is
like,
I
man,
love going
no,
out
no,
and
you
doing all
personally,
these
but
events.
no,
Just
but
no, I can't wait to come home
they're
and
come
just
home, right? Because I mean, you're right. You said you're busy if you're doing events, traveling, and doing so many different
right,
things. It's almost one of those things like, well, I like being home. I just like just
right.
to be home, and you could do things like they said, like these Zoom calls or meetings and things like that. And I've heard that too, and even for me too, I do podcasts from home. Um, Go to a few games here and there and everything. I love doing that stuff, but when I get an opportunity, went to Super Bowl a couple years ago. It was great. I mean, it was a dream come true.
Oh yeah, go
To
this year. It's
do.
in San Francisco.
I
And the
know, I
following year
know,
it's
and
in
I know
LA.
yes, our network is our network for the podcast have done it for the last 3 years, 4 years, 3 4 years. They put
Yeah.
in again for the credentials because then
Oh yeah, yeah.
it's at the
Definitely do
Bay.
Radio Row. That's like a
Yeah,
big, big part of
yes.
business during
Oh
Super
my
Bowl.
goodness,
I
yeah.
always
When
take all my clients there. So if you're there this year, would love to have all my clients come on the show.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. That I'm thinking about it. It was on Radio Row 2 years ago, and that was in Vegas. That was my first
I was
time.
there. I was
Okay.
there.
Yep. Yeah, that was crazy time. And it was
Yeah.
definitely something. It was busy and everything. Some of the
Yeah.
events and things like that. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. A lot of work. And I always tell people, they say, "Well, how was it?" I say it was work. You do
Yeah.
have some fun, but it's a lot of work. You
Right.
come in there just to have fun, you can. But if you're going to Radio Row,
Yeah.
it's work. It's a
Oh
moving
my gosh,
around
yeah,
work.
it's like interview after interview, and then
Yes.
publicists, PR people, who or myself at that time going up to these different booths being like, "Hey, do you have any slots open? Like, I have this person.
Mhm.
Here's my client. Here's my influencer. Here's my athlete. Here's my
Yeah.
business person." It's super cool. And then you've got the whole parade of events at night that you have to take the
Yeah.
clients to, the red
Yep.
carpets,
Yep.
the taste of NFL, all those sorts of things. So
Yeah.
it seems really cool on the outside to be like, "Oh my God, you're enjoying Super Bowl." But
Yeah.
in reality, you're like the beck and call of all
Yes.
of your clients, like, "Oh, we're
Hmm.
here now, we're here." Then you got to go argue a little bit, with the PR company at some event. Like, "No, I promise you, I put their plus one on the list. Like, please just let them in. Like, we're here
Yeah,
for
yeah.
content. We'll tag you."
Absolutely. Yeah, we had a booth and we had so many interviews. Like it was just it was something. So, and other some we took 4 people,
Oh
and
wow.
some were going to this event. Me and
Hmm.
the creator of the network, we stayed and did the interviews. We had like 12, 15 interviews each
Wow.
day. It was just back to back to back and everything. Some of them we had scheduled, some that just came. They just said, "Hey," you
Oh
said, "You come
yeah.
in and say,
Yep.
hey, you got time for 20 minutes?" Yeah, yes, we got some time. Come on. And,
Oh, don't
and
worry. I had a client that was like 3 hours late to a whole day slate of interviews and like, "Oh, okay, I guess we'll just do two."
yeah,
Because,
yeah, right.
it's Radio Row's closing.
Yeah,
So,
yes.
in the business, like, you never know what's gonna happen.
You
I think,
don't.
like, again, going back to, like, the tools to be successful, it's just about, Yeah, the audacity to go up to
Yeah.
different booths and be like, "Hey, I've got this person who's incredibly important that fits everything in your audience, and like you guys need to talk to this person."
Hmm.
And then the other side is like planning for the worst when people don't show up and you have interviews scheduled, or we had someone's name on the list and we just can't get them in. Like you have to plan for those inevitable things that are going to happen that are going to derail your day, or even like the mental health breaks. We had
Yeah.
Rashad Evans last year at Radio Row. And
Mm.
just, I did not know that he was a vegan. And so, it's Louisiana. And of course, we're going to have gumbo and we're going to have all these great
Yeah, all
foods
this
and
great
things
food. Yeah.
at Radio Row. But, sometimes you don't realize that like your client can't eat that. They have a different ability to eat things, or you forget like they're an athlete. So they need to sit down, they need to be hydrated, things like that. So, back to like business practices and like keys to being successful. Like there's so many things that go into it.
Yeah. Yes. And you got to have a plan when you go, when you go something like
100%. Oh,
something like
I'm the mom of the group. I've got like snacks in my
that.
bag. I've literally got like a sewing kit in there,
Yeah.
got a Tide pen, got some
Mhm.
electrolytes, even a liquid IV if God forbid, like we've got a 9 a.m. interview and like you were out at I don't know, like the Verizon event last night.
Yeah, yeah. You got the media party. They've had that. We was there with that, and you said opening night, Super Bowl opening night with all the teams on the field with the teams interviewing and
Yep.
things. Yeah, it was a whirlwind. So I know if I go this year, which I was debating for planning or not. If we do, we should definitely we'll stay in touch so we can
Oh, 100%.
for sure. I would love to meet you just in general, or you said interview or anything like that. We'll definitely stay in touch for that. So yeah, so we said you got so much going on in LA. Again, the Olympics is coming up in 2028,
Yeah.
and you got the World Cup, and I
Yeah,
mean
for
this
anyone
was.
that's not fully prepared, just know LA is that city. The West
Hmm.
Coast is that coast for the
Yep.
next like 3 to 6 years, honestly, of
Yes.
just like
Absolutely.
soccer, football, basketball,
Yep.
like everything. It's
Yeah.
gonna be here.
It's gonna be there, yeah, and it's interesting too because Philly has it next year. Philly's got a lot of different
Yeah.
things coming up. They got World Cup. They have
Yeah.
I think they got a golf event coming. I think the
Mhm.
PGA's here.
Yep.
All-Star games here. The Major League Baseball All-Star games here.
Ugh.
So there's a lot happening here. The Unrivaled going to be here in January. This in basketball, women's. Yeah, there's a lot. College basketball. I know. I think the
Yep.
men's college basketball is going to be here for the tournament. Yeah,
Right.
so a lot of things happening, but the West Coast, he said, the
Yeah.
next 3-4 years is definitely going to be. You're going to have a
Yeah,
busy
and if,
plate, busy
if
things.
any, like, followers aren't aware, like, you need to prep for those things, like,
You
we're
do.
talking about them now, but we've already started plans for them, like, if you wanna
Hmm.
be involved in these, like, huge international iconic cultural moments, like, you need to have a plan, so, like,
You do have it. Yep.
top of mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good advice too. If you're trying to get into the brand, talk with brands or and networking and things like that. These events, you right, you have to plan for those things. I think that's a really good advice. Plan for these big. I mean, these are the biggest events in sports and entertainment. You definitely need to plan for it. So,
Yep.
but yeah, so yes, we got to talk about. Uh, um, Current senator at Rutgers University, and you said, "Are you a senator of the, of the government?" Like,
Yeah, no, not that. I don't think I'd pass those tests.
but yes, talk about a little bit about. I think that's pretty. I think it's cool. Like talk about how you became the senator of Rutgers University.
Yeah, yeah. I think a big part of my career, my journey, and even just like my leadership thesis is two things. Number one, the importance of giving back. I think
Mm,
that it's so incredibly important. There are so many people, whether you're an influencer or not, that you have this knowledge that other people need to know, and they don't have access to. And I think that's a really, really big part of being in the industry, whether it's
yeah,
entertainment, media, or sports, is that it's such a club. Like you cannot get your first job in sports unless somebody refers you and knows you. And
mm,
even if you're trying to move to an organization, you're going from media, let's call it like um, at a streaming company like Netflix, and you want to make it over to sports, but instill streaming, let's call it, being the opposite counterpart. Like you need to know somebody at that new organization. They need to
yeah,
vouch for you. They need to like be able to speak about the experience that you have, how good you are, and things like that. And it's such a gate kept community on all sides. And so, growing those relationships and being able to make those connections, I think is so important because I almost want to say like it's not fair, but it almost is fair because the people who are there have worked so hard for it. But that's one side of like my thesis on it. And then the second side is being the person that like I didn't necessarily have. I think as I grew up in my career, there weren't a lot of people that I could look to that I felt had these ties to all sides of the organizations, that had these ties to sports, media, entertainment, and were able to work across the different spaces. And so now that I feel that I have a good enough footing, again, I just feel that it's really important to be that person, whether it's because I'm a woman of color, whether it's because I'm young, whether it's because I went to Rutgers, I was a student athlete who's an entrepreneur, who's had a company, who's exited. I think it's really important to stand on those things and like be an advocate for people and for community. And so those were always, what I was leading with. And that ended up leading me back to Rutgers, my alma mater. I got nominated to be the senator for all the alumni constituency, which is over 500,000 people.
Yeah.
I oversee the whole alumni body for the university senate. The senate, makes recommendations to the board of governors, to the university. We have different, members of the university, whether it's budget and finance, et cetera. We oversee, money and how it's allocated per se, and what suggestions we make to the university about uh, different leadership, different models, renovations, all those sorts of things. And, being one of the youngest senators that's not a student, I feel like I'm always trying to help in the technology realm of, oh, we should have Slack and things like that. And so I'm excited to be in the Senate as well as one of the younger people who can kind of bring that new edge and these audacious comments and suggestions and things like that. So even there, just finding my footing and trying to be a leader.
Yeah, hey, you have the leadership skills because you said you've done be an entrepreneur and and everything, having run your own company and things like that. That experience I'm sure has helped you become the senator at Rutgers University as well. And bringing fresh new ideas. It's interesting. Me and my wife was just talking about this. We were just talking about the younger generation and how much that the influencers and stuff like that, going from, you said, the old school principles of things, but
Yeah,
learning from the new school too, and bringing that gap to, bring it together when it comes to
100%.
like social media, things like that, media and business in general. And we were just talking about that, like, yeah, there's a lot of young, talented, and just the,
100%.
yeah, people, and then hearing their ideas and bringing, those things. I think it's excellent. I love it and everything
Yeah.
too. I'm always listening to my nephews and nieces, and they're talking about things. And you say I'm 20 something years older than they are, but they have the pulse on
Yeah.
what's new, what's innovative, and things like that. And I'm always listening and adjusting. It's like, yeah,
Mhm.
this works. They talk about social media in a different light than what I see it or what I think
Exactly.
it, what it is. So yeah, I can definitely say, you said, you're bringing ideas, fresh takes, things like that, and then it should be listened to and warranted as well.
Yeah. I think there like two points to that is number one, you're right. I think this newer generation per se, this younger generation, I think
Yeah,
every
yeah,
generation has like, oh, this younger generation.
yeah.
I'm a younger millennial, so I'm lucky that I get to sit between understanding the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha generation because I work with them so much, and then
Yeah.
also understanding the millennial and Gen X, because those are my constituents, and also those are people that I'm constantly working with. So I love being
Right.
able to kind of sit in this middle and being almost like an interpreter for both sides, taking some
Mm,
of the
yeah.
perspectives and the best practices from older generations and placing it in the Gen Z generation, but taking that audacity, that boldness, the creativity, and bringing that into, like, let's call it older generations. That's kind of how I see myself in a lot of ways. And then um, second to that, like the university senate and just working in the space that I work and being one of the younger people in the room, I think it's also taught me a lot about politics. Again, like being a senator,
Mm,
it is all about politics. We do have to speak
yes.
with decorum.
Mhm.
We do have to follow Robert's rules. And so I think, having that understanding of let's call it politics, of how to speak in certain ways to get your point across, of how
Right.
to leverage relationships and constituency groups and things like that. I think that's been incredibly beneficial to my career as it stands now as I start working with investors. I think when you're working with talent, it's different. When you're working with investors, it's different. When you're working with business people, it's different. And so being able to understand like the game per se, I think that's been like an incredible benefit to me that I've gotten from working in the Senate too.
Yeah, and you're learning, and they're learning from you. You're learning from them. I think it's you get the best of both worlds when it comes to that. And we're always learning. We're always trying to adapt. We're always evolving. And something that, as you said, a senator of Rutgers University, you're bringing a different perspective, but also learning from other different people that you've worked with as well on the investor side, on all those things too. I think it's tremendous too. All right, just got a couple more and then I'll let you go. I could talk to you for a longer time and everything, but for time.
We'll see each other at Radio Row.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to definitely be in touch for sure. We still got a few months left of that because that's in February. So we got
Ooh,
the
coming up
holidays,
so quick.
but it's going to come up so
It's
quick.
like Super Bowl and then a couple days and then All Star, and you're like, great, I just won't
Right.
go home.
I'll just stay here. I'll stay here in the Bay Area. But so what has been a pivotal moment in your career that reaffirmed your purpose in the creator NIL economy, or just in general what you've done throughout your career, your young career? But what's been a pivotal moment, or something at a networking event or anything like that?
I would say, I'm honestly Super Bowl. I don't talk about it a lot.
Mm,
Normally, when I answer that question, I'll be honest, I talk about
yeah.
the time I was hospitalized from overworking because mental health is a big thing I like
Oh,
to
big
talk
time.
about.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a big one.
But as far as it goes as pivotal, I think really Super Bowl, and meeting
Okay.
the people that are now in my network and my good friends. I think that moment and that, let's call it like event, was a huge milestone for me. I
Yeah.
think, having worked with all these different people through different organizations, consultants, entrepreneurs, athletes, artists, etc. We all have this culmination moment and this like come together moment, and it's really been Super Bowl, honestly. I think because leveraging Radio Row for what it is, you're talking about the NFL, you're talking about different sports leagues. Like I said, All Stars the following week, but then you're also leveraging artists that are there. You're leveraging influencers that are relevant or relevant to the sport of football. You're also talking about events, getting people on red carpets and things like that, and then all of us, publicists, managers, entrepreneurs, investors, advisors, like we're all there in one space
Yeah.
trying to, get certain things done, but collaboratively doing it. And I think Super Bowl 2 years ago was really the first time that I dove into that collaboration arm. And that's really like where I found so much success is you can't do it alone, honestly. Like you can't take a talent to something as big as Super Bowl and expect to not meet anyone, to not work with anyone, to not
Yeah.
help anyone, and not have a successful time there, and also a successful post event, post mortem going forward. I was so lucky to find like an amazing group to start working with 2 years ago at the Vegas Super Bowl, mainly of women who I've found that were genuinely like had so much experience and knowledge and just so um, great to be working with like this group of people that I kind of like, squeezed together, and then been working with those people. We've shared clients and then been able to see their perspectives, whether they came from the media world or they came from the nonprofit world. And then going forward, we've done Super Bowl every year together. We've done a lot of events together. We have a lot of clients together. I share our connections, share our experiences. We have that time to kind of commiserate on the same BS that, a client
Mhm.
gives you
Yeah.
or that an event comes from. But I think that really taught me a lot about community because, like I said before, I always found myself not able to necessarily find someone who looked exactly like me, thought like me, and was someone that I wanted to aspire to.
Yeah.
But I think 2 years ago, having worked with that group and still have them now as good friends, that really opened up my eyes to the power of collaboration and
Mhm.
support and community. And even going forward, like sharing connections of, hey, like I've got this connection, and, just not feeling bad at all, asking someone like, oh, I saw you worked with so and so. I've been trying to get to X for Y reason. Like, can you help me out? And
Yeah.
sharing it and not feeling, um, like I was being a burden per se, but also knowing that they can ask the same question right back. And I'm more than happy to share that person because my community is only filled with amazing people that I would stand for.
I love that. I really do. That's a very big moment. And you said going to Super Bowl, finding those connections and networking. We were just talking about that. Is very important, and you're meeting people that you might have seen on social media, and then you get to meet them,
Yeah.
and now you're working with them. You come together as a group, as you said, a group of women. Now that you're working with them and being at other events. Over the last couple of years, I'm sure it was very rewarding, and just seeing, like I said, just seeing people grow in their space, whatever it is, whether media is said or nonprofit or sports, anything like that. It's I think that's a very big moment for sure. I agree, 100%. All right, just the last one. Any final words? What you got upcoming? I know you talked a little bit about Super Bowl and all the things that's happening on the West Coast, but any other final words before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think, this NIL space, all my clients, we talk about it often.
Mhm.
And NIL, it's technically referring again to that 2021 rule from the NCAA, so college, but
Yeah,
now people are pulling NIL down into the high schools of, hey, these are change makers. These are culture drivers. A lot of
yeah,
culture is recycled. So, like, think about Ed Hardy. Think about the Air Maxes coming back, the Air Force Ones coming back. Like, culture is recycled, but the drivers of cultures and the people who really define it and then blow it up per se, like spread
yep,
it out, honestly, is that younger generation. It's always going to be the high schoolers, the middle schoolers, the college kids. They're the ones who are going to drive culture. And so, I think as we look forward to the future of NIL, but also just the future of culture and like from the retail perspective or from the social media perspective or from the entertainment perspective, you do have to look younger. Of course, people like Michael B. Jordan and Glenn Turman and all these other people, like they're going to drive culture from that side, from like this, like let's call it like on a different level. But really like the grassroots on the ground culture drivers are going to be this younger generation. So as we look forward in NIL and again all these other spaces, I think we really need to pay attention to these younger athletes. The top quarterback coming out of Texas or the top basketball player coming out of Atlanta. Like we need to pay attention to these younger generations and how successful they are, how good they are, and the things that they're talking about. And that's going to help us establish like what that future of NIL and just what the future of, these different industries of media, entertainment, and sports, what it's going to look like.
yep, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. Paying attention to the growth of, you said, the young athlete, the young
Yep.
influencer, and seeing what they're doing, and just and helping them too, guiding them and helping them be able to
Yep.
get to success. What they're trying to achieve, and like you said, you definitely have that the landscape of it, and as well the platform to continue to keep building and things like that. So Rachel, this has been a lot of fun. I really, really appreciate this conversation. Appreciate you and your time. Thank you again for doing this, for accepting the invite. I can't thank you enough.
Of course. Thanks for having
Yeah,
me.
yeah, I really enjoyed this and really appreciate it. And we got a couple of comments here real quick. Nathan Ramachandra said, "What's up? Hi, Rachel," he said, and happy Tuesday. So thanks for tuning in.
It's only Tuesday.
I know it's only Tuesday, right? You think, oh, happy Friday, but no, it's only Tuesday and everything too. But
I think like after you get out of working a 9 to 5, honestly, like you never know what day it is
no, you
because it
don't. You
doesn't
really
matter.
don't.
Like every day you're
It-
working,
every day is
you're
working.
home, I'm in the same
Mhm.
environment. The only time I
So,
know the difference in days is like, oh, today am I at an on-site with this company or am I at
right.
this event?
Yep.
I literally never know what day it is.
Me either. I'm with you. I work from home too, and that's like, oh, it's just every day. Oh, I know it's Saturday, so I don't have to work, but it's
Right?
still I do the
You wake up
podcast.
like in
So
a nightmare. Like part of it is
yeah,
like, oh my God,
yes.
I'm late for practice from college. And the other half is like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be working right
Supposed to be
now.
working, yes, exactly. But thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. But thank you again, Rachel. But let everyone know where they can follow you, uh, and follow your journey. Want to reach out to you and things like that. And yeah, on social media.
Yeah, yeah. All my handles are just Rachel Maeng. My name on the screen. Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. I think I'm on Twitter and Threads, but post most likely on Instagram and LinkedIn. So you can find me there. My office hours are there. I do take office hours for free every week to answer questions, try to, be someone that's helpful.
Yes, and you're very active on social, and like I said, I'm so glad we got to connect and network together, and hopefully, like I said, we'll be Super Bowl this upcoming year. Well, they're
100%.
coming up in like 2 months, 2 3 months, and yeah, we'll definitely stay in touch. And I got to have you back on the show again. You're now your podcast family, so I'd love to have you back on as well.
100%. I'll
All
be with
right.
you at Super Bowl. So
Yeah, there you go. Yes, yes, I appreciate that for real. I do, I really do. All right, well, we'll talk soon, and we'll stay in touch. And thank you again, and have a good holiday as well.
I'll be working.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I got those 2 days off, so I'm trying to relax and everything to eat and relax. But enjoy if you celebrate, enjoy the holidays, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you. All right, have a good one.